Hey guys, welcome to Calm History. Tonight we're going somewhere dark, dusty, and definitely not 5-star. You're being thrown behind iron bars in a western jail cell, circa 1870. And no, this is not the movie kind with witty outlaws and charming sheriffs. This is the kind with lice, spoiled beans, and that one guy in the corner who's been muttering to himself since last week. Hey, if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I'm curious where you're listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Now find a cozy spot. Take a slow, deep breath, and let your body sink into comfort as we journey back in time together. Congratulations. The cell isn't clean. It isn't kind. And you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with where you're listening from, and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stumble. Your boots scrape the threshold of a door that groans with age and rust. Behind you, a surly deputy grunts as he shoves your back, not hard enough to bruise, but just enough to say, you don't matter anymore. The iron door creaks open, not out of hospitality, but to swallow you whole. It's not even a cell. It's a box with bars. Wood-planked walls behind, steel bars in front, a floor that crunches underfoot like something once alive may have died here and stayed. There's no time to protest. The door swings back with a thunderous clang, and it feels like the last punctuation mark at the end of a sentence you didn't write. The keys jingle in the deputy's hand, louder than you'd think, until they disappear back into his belt. Then he walks off. No parting words, no warning. Just silence, heavy as your own thoughts. And here you are. For the first few moments, you don't move. You just stand there, trying to process what exactly you're breathing. The air smells like rust, mold, and sweat soaked into wood grain. Not fresh sweat, old sweat. The kind that's lived here longer than the walls. You glance around. There's a bench against one wall. You think it's wood, but it's so caked in grime you can't tell. There's no mattress. No pillow. No blanket. And definitely no privacy. Somewhere outside, a dog barks. Somewhere closer, something squeaks. The walls seem to close in the longer you look at them. They're not high, maybe 8 feet, but they lean. Or maybe it's just the warped planks. And don't stare too long at the knot in the lower corner. Something shifts in there. You decide it's better not to know. There's a window, kind of. More like 3 gaps cut into the wood, just high enough that you can't see out unless you're really tall or really desperate. You hear voices on the other side. Laughter. Boots. Someone spits. You were someone a moment ago. Someone who had rights and shoes that still fit. But here? You're a body behind bars. And in this place, bodies are more nuisance than novelty. Your stomach growls. Loudly. As if it hasn't realized there's nothing to be done about it. The last thing you ate was hours ago, maybe longer, and that was lukewarm stew and a piece of bread that could have moonlighted as building material. Your hands reach out instinctively, brushing the bars. They're cold. So cold. As if they've never absorbed a single bit of human warmth. You could scream, but you don't. Because something tells you they like it when you scream. You sit. Slowly. The bench creaks beneath you and sends up a tiny puff of dust. At least you hope it's dust. And now you're officially in. Fully part of this wooden coffin they call a jail cell. You wonder who else has sat here. Which outlaws? Which innocents? Which ghosts? There's a faint carving etched into the wall near your shoulder. You can just make it out. J.W. 1869. Below that, someone scratched a tiny figure, a stick man with a lasso. You smile, then realize you're smiling and stop. It's too early for coping mechanisms. The heat starts to hit you next. It doesn't roll in like a wave, it clings like a damp shirt. There's no airflow, no cross breeze. Just you and the stagnant warmth of a room that hasn't known fresh air since Lincoln was alive. You hear footsteps again. They stop. Keys jingle. Then they keep walking. That one hurts more than you expected. You try to guess how long you've been in here. 10 minutes? 20? Could be 5, could be 50. Time doesn't pass here. It lingers. You shift your weight. The bench squeaks again. The air smells worse when you move. Something under the bench might be rotting. You tell yourself it's food. Please let it be food. From outside the bars, someone coughs. A man, gravel-throated and tired. New meat? He rasps. You don't answer. You're not ready to be meat. The sounds around you start to separate, the distant clang of a horseshoe game, a harmonica playing something vaguely hopeful, a fly buzzing near the ceiling, the rhythmic rattle of something against metal. And always, under it all, the creeping thought, you're not getting out in one piece. You may leave. Eventually. But 1 hour here will leave a mark. Historically, most Western jails weren't even jails, by any modern definition. They were temporary holding pens, cobbled together with whatever was cheap and available. Usually wood, rusting iron, and an abundance of bad decisions. Historians still argue whether most of these facilities were even meant for human confinement, or just convenient closets for undesirables. Fun fact: one 19th century Colorado jail was literally just a shipping crate chained to a tree. Cozy, right? Meanwhile, you're lucky. You got walls. Technically. But don't celebrate. You've got 58 more minutes in this splintered nightmare, and it's only going to get worse from here. The door slams again. Not yours this time, someone else's. Somewhere farther down the corridor. But the sound is so sharp, so final, that your whole body tenses like it happened right behind you. The acoustics in this place are cruel. Every echo sticks around just long enough to mess with your sense of direction and time. That slam? It's not just a noise, it's punctuation. Every door's slam in here is a period at the end of someone's freedom. You swallow, though your throat is dry. Feels like you've swallowed dust and pride all at once. You shift on the bench again. The wood grates under you. Still not sure if it's moaning because it's old, or because it knows what's coming. The front of your cell isn't so much a door as it is a set of iron bars loosely pretending to provide security. They don't even fit properly in the frame. There's a gap near the bottom wide enough for a squirrel, or a particularly ambitious rat. You keep glancing at it like something might slide in at any moment. Let's hope it doesn't. You reach out and touch the bars again, just to remind yourself they're real. Cold, pitted, and somehow greasy. Who knows how many hands, wrists, or faces have pressed against them. One thing's for sure, this iron doesn't forget. It holds every fingerprint like a curse. You hear boots now, this time closer. Heavy, unhurried steps. Not a shuffle like your fellow inmates. This is a man with keys and no bedtime. You freeze. It's instinct. Because in here, the person walking toward you is never bringing snacks or apologies. He stops just outside your cell. Doesn't say anything. You don't either. There's a moment. Long enough to wonder if this is it. Maybe they're letting you out early? Maybe they realized you're innocent? Maybe this was all a mistake and they're here to apologize and... Nope. He spits. Right through the bars. Doesn't say a word. Just turns and walks away. You're still frozen. Somewhere behind you, that old man who called you new meat chuckles. Yup. That one don't talk much. But he watches. That's not better. You finally exhale and lean back against the wall. It's not smooth. Every plank has a splinter or a nailhead or a smear of something you really hope is just old oil. The wall feels alive. Not in a mystical way. In a mildew and bacteria way. Like it's growing things. Watching things. Your shoulder blades itch immediately. You press your ear to the wood. Not because you want to, but because you've seen people do it in movies. You hear muffled conversation. Laughter. Someone outside still has freedom. They're joking about poker or women or whiskey. Or maybe all three. You hate them a little. Just a little. Historically, Many Western jails were attached directly to the sheriff's office, or, in some cases, to the back of a saloon. Yes, really. A night in jail could mean your wall was the same plank as the bar someone was dancing on. Historians still argue whether this blending of justice and whiskey was pragmatic or just extremely American. You shift again. The bench is not getting more comfortable. You wonder how many fights have happened in this exact spot. How many people were dragged out kicking and screaming. How many came back. There's a dent in the bar near eye level. At first, you thought it was just damage, but now you're pretty sure it's from someone's head. You stare at it for too long. That's your cue to look away. You stand. Stretch. Immediately regret it. The ceiling's low, but not low, just enough that you're always aware of it hovering overhead like a bad thought. A single beam runs down the middle. There's a hook in the wood. No one ever talks about the hook. You decide not to either. The back corner of the cell has a bucket. Of course it does. You can't smell it yet, but that's only because the rest of the room is trying harder. You give the bucket a wide berth. There's no lid. There's also no shame. Not in here. Not anymore. You pace. Back and forth. 4 steps forward. Turn. 4 steps back. Repeat. It's not much of a routine, but it's yours now. The clang of the door still echoes in your ears. That sound doesn't just mark the entrance. It marks the loss of everything else, the street noise, the fresh air, your last chance to pretend this was temporary. You sit again. Slowly. Carefully. Time check, impossible. Could be 20 minutes in. Could be 5. Could be tomorrow already. You want a clock. You want a window. You want your watch, which they took at intake along with your boots, your wallet, and your last sliver of dignity. The intake deputy said, "We hold on to the valuables." You wanted to ask if that included hope. You didn't. The old man 2 cells down coughs again. Wetly. You try not to breathe in his direction. "I wasn't here when Jesse James rode through town." He wheezes. "Didn't stop." "Smart man." You nod, even though he can't see you. "Don't worry," he adds. "They let you out eventually." Then, quieter. "Most of the time." That's not encouraging. You lean forward, rest your head on your hands, and close your eyes. The bench creaks beneath you like it's telling secrets. Somewhere nearby, a drip begins. You don't know where. You just know it's going to keep dripping. For the next hour. For the rest of your life. You sit in the dark, heartbeats slowing, senses sharpening. The sound of the door still sits in your bones like a bruise. You're not locked in. You're swallowed whole. And that door? It doesn't creak open to let you out. It only slams shut to remind you that you're staying in. You start noticing the smell about 30 seconds too late. It doesn't hit you like a punch in the face, not at first. It creeps. Slides into your nostrils like a lazy fog rolling off a polluted swamp. You try to ignore it, but your body won't let you. Your nose crinkles. Your stomach shifts. Something about this odor goes beyond bad. It's ancient. Like it fermented in a boot worn by regret. You instinctively breathe through your mouth, but even that doesn't help. Because now it's on your tongue. Welcome to the real Western jail experience. See, these cells weren't sanitized. They weren't cleaned. They weren't designed with any airflow in mind. If someone puked in the corner last week, it's still there. If someone bled, it's part of the decor now. If someone died, well, you'd smell it before anyone mentioned it. You back away from the wall, away from the bucket, and away from the bench that somehow smells worse now that you've sat on it twice. Your eyes adjust slowly to the low light. It's not dark exactly, more like murky. Yellow light flickers in from the hallway outside, probably from a gas lantern that's running low and threatening to die, just like your sense of optimism. You rub your hands on your pants, even though you know they're already covered in the essence of jail. But it's a reflex. You feel dirty. Because you are. There's something thick in the air. Not visible, but tangible. You imagine you could cut it with a spoon, and even then, it'd stick to the blade. Now your nose itches. Maybe it's just psychosomatic. Maybe it's lice. You try not to scratch, but the suggestion is there now. Like a worm in your brain whispering, this cell is alive. You look around again, slowly this time. Cataloging. A corner crusted with a brownish something. The bucket, still present, still ominous. A black mark on the wall that looks like soot but could be anything. A pair of initials carved into the iron bar. TG. Underneath that, a date, 1881. You wonder if he ever left. Western jails rarely had more than 1 or 2 cells, and hygiene wasn't a concern so much as a mythical concept. Most cleaning was done with a broom and a shrug. Historians still argue whether jailers actually intended to maintain the cells or simply hoped the smell would do the punishing for them. And honestly, it's working. There's a sweet rotten edge to the stink now. Like fruit gone bad in a leather satchel. Someone might have thrown up in here, last night or last month. You wonder if it matters. You decide it doesn't. Then you catch a new scent. Sharp. Tangy. Familiar. Oh no. Urine. Not fresh, but not fossilized either. You look under the bench. There's a damp spot. You close your eyes. Maybe it's water. Maybe it's a spilled drink. Maybe it's a dream. It's none of those. You try moving closer to the bars for air, as if there's anything helpful out there. You inhale, and instantly regret it. The hallway smells like tobacco, spilled whiskey, and whatever the deputy had for lunch. You're not sure which side of the bars smells worse now. A fly buzzes near your ear. You swat at it and hit only stale air. It lands on the bench, then disappears under it. You choose not to follow its path with your eyes. The old man wheezes a laugh again. "She's a ripe one tonight," he says, like he's complimenting the weather. You glance over. Can't quite see him, but you picture a face carved by years and grime, probably missing teeth, probably with one eye that sees more than it should. "You'll get used to it," he says. "You won't. You can't. You hope you don't stay long enough to. But the smell becomes a character in the room. It has presence. Weight. Memory. It tells stories you don't want to hear. Remember that story you read once about how ancient Egyptians used crocodile dung as a form of birth control? Somehow, that feels less offensive than this odor. You sit again. There's nowhere else to go. You try to pull your shirt up over your nose, but it's already been touched by everything else in here. It doesn't help. You settle for breathing shallow. It becomes a game. Inhale, count to 3. Exhale, don't vomit. Repeat. The worst part isn't the smell itself. It's that you're starting to get used to it. Like background music you didn't ask for. You feel your brain adjusting. Your stomach gives up protesting. Your nose stops flinching. This is your life now. Historically, Western jail cells were considered temporary, just a place to stash someone before trial, exile, or hanging. No one expected prisoners to stay long, and certainly not in humane conditions. Some jails were literally caves. Others were holes in the ground covered with planks. You, lucky traveler, got a box with walls. Luxury. You wonder how much worse this place gets after a few more hours. Then you remember, you only need to last one. Just 1 hour. How long has it been? 10 minutes? You check your wrist again. Still no watch. Still no time. Still the same smell, same walls, same bucket, same bar with the initials. TG. Mocking you? There's movement above you now. Something skitters across the ceiling beam. A rat? A bird? A ghost? You pretend it's a raccoon and move on. The smell shifts again. Now it smells like beans? Oh no. You realize with horror, dinner might be coming. It starts with a clatter. A metal tray hitting another. The kind of sound that shouldn't echo, but somehow does, bouncing down the hall like a warning bell. You sit up straighter without meaning to. Something primal in your spine says food, even if your nose strongly disagrees. The old man perks up too. You hear the rustle of straw and creaking joints. Dinner time. He mutters with a tone that might pass for joy in this place. Or maybe it's sarcasm. Hard to tell through phlegm. Boots approach. Not hurried. Not kind. The slow, swaggering kind of footsteps that say I'm the only one with keys, and I like that just fine. You try not to expect much. You're right to do so. The deputy rounds the corner, dragging a wooden cart with squeaky wheels and 2 trays clinking on top. He's got a long mustache that droops like a tired broom, and eyes that haven't blinked since 1876. He stops in front of your cell, doesn't look at you, and slides a tray under the bars with the toe of his boot. You eat it or don't, he says flatly, then moves on. You stare at the tray like it just insulted your mother. There are 3 items. A scoop of beans that jiggle more than they should. A biscuit the size and density of a horseshoe. A tin cup filled with something pretending to be water. The smell rises first. It's not bad, per se, just old. Beans that have met air. A lot of air. Maybe some jail dust for seasoning. You poke them with your finger. They resist. You poke again. They win. The biscuit cracks when you tap it against the floor. You're genuinely impressed. You try to break it in half. It doesn't. You decide it may double as a weapon if things go sideways. You take a sip of the water. Regret. It tastes like iron, sweat, and memory. You cough, spit, then take another sip anyway. Hydration is hydration, even if it's haunted. You look across the hall. A man in the opposite cell is licking his tray clean like it's a rare delicacy. Maybe it is. Maybe he's been here longer. Maybe he's just further down the spiral of acceptance. The old man next door chuckles. Be glad you got the soft beans. Last week, they served them still crunchy. You glance at your beans again. They are definitely not soft. You poke them one more time just to be sure they're not moving. Historically, jail food in the Old West was whatever was cheap, shelf-stable, and didn't make the sheriff gag. That usually meant beans. Lots of beans. Sometimes salted pork, heavily salted. And biscuits so hard, soldiers during the Civil War used to carve chess pieces out of them. Historians still argue whether the lack of nutrition was due to scarcity or pure institutional apathy. You break off a corner of the biscuit and chew. Well, you try. You gnaw for a while, then give up and suck on it like a jawbreaker. The beans you manage to swallow. Just 1 spoonful. The texture is somewhere between gritty and lumpy, and the flavor is indecisive. You taste dust, maybe grease, maybe sorrow. Still better than airline food, you joke to yourself. Then feel guilty for laughing. You slide the tray aside, not quite finished, not quite willing. The smell lingers. In here, everything lingers. You lean back against the wall again and close your eyes, wondering how much nutrition a person can get from 1.5 beans and a cup of ghost water. Your stomach gurgles in protest. Or maybe it's trying to digest the biscuit like it's a foreign object. You hear another tray hit the floor 2 cells down. Then a loud clink, followed by some very colorful swearing. Someone else didn't appreciate dinner either. You hear the deputy mutter, "Suit yourself," and wheel the cart away. And just like that, the show is over. The meal window closes with a whimper. You wipe your hands on your pants again. It doesn't help. The old man speaks again. "You know," he says slowly, "once I got a plum in here. Sheriff's wife dropped it in by accident." He pauses. "Best thing I ever ate." You nod solemnly, like he's just recited scripture. Then, softer, he adds, "She died 2 days later." You don't ask how. You lie back on the bench, arms crossed over your chest, trying to ignore the fact that the food you just ate is now making your stomach feel like it's hosting a duel. A single fly lands on the rim of your tin cup. It's too full of pride to be afraid of you. You sigh. You let it be. Let's face it, you're no longer top of the food chain in this cell. And still, the food is somehow the least offensive part of the hour. "Hey guys. How's your day going? If you're living fully in each moment, drop a 1 as a sign of strength and presence. But if today feels like a tough journey, type 2, because you're not alone. I'm right here with you, walking this path together. Peace isn't waiting at the end of the road, it's found in every brave step you take. Use shift again. It's the 10th time in 5 minutes. Your back aches from the bench, your legs are stiff, and your stomach is confused. The beans sit like a bad decision, and the biscuit is still lodged somewhere between your teeth and your sense of self-worth. You try standing, but there's not much to do once you're up. You look around again. The walls haven't changed. The smells certainly haven't. So you look down. And that's when you notice them. Bugs. Tiny ones at first, dots that move when they shouldn't. Then bigger ones, brown, six-legged creepers weaving through the cracks in the floorboards like they own the place. Because they do. You step back quickly, foot crunching on something that snaps under your heel. You don't look too closely. You just don't want to know. They're everywhere now. Or maybe they were before and your brain just decided to process them now, as a fun little surprise. One crawls across the bench. Another darts beneath the tin cup. You twitch. And then you feel it. A bite. Sharp. On your ankle. You slap it instinctively. Too late. Something small and full of attitude has just claimed you. Welcome to your next 50 minutes. You crouch to check your leg. Your sock has a smear of blood where something dug in. You don't know what. You probably don't have the vocabulary for it. The floorboards are full of little gaps, and every single one seems to contain movement. Not visible unless you really look. But you don't want to. The straw in the corner, matted, musty, and suspiciously damp, rustles. Not in the wind, there is no wind, but in that something alive way. You back away from it without taking your eyes off it. You've seen horror movies. You know the rules. The old man wheezes. They don't bite if you don't sweat. You blink. I'm sweating. Then your dinner. He says unapologetically. Historically, Western jails were breeding grounds for lice, fleas, and all manner of itchy indignities. Regular bathing was rare, even for the sheriffs. Prisoners could go days or weeks without washing, and straw bedding was rarely changed, if ever. Historians still argue whether infestations were merely tolerated or actively weaponized as deterrents. You sit again, more carefully this time, checking the bench before your rear end touches down. You half expect something to leap at you. Nothing does. Which somehow makes it worse. You know they're waiting. You scratch your arm. You're not even sure if it's real or psychological anymore. Your body is in defense mode now, reacting to every tickle like it's an attack. You pat your back. Check your collar. Lift your shirt. Inspect your sleeves. Still nothing. Or everything. You glance at the wall again. There's a line of ants marching toward a dark stain you hadn't noticed before. You tell yourself it's an old jam spill. You lie to yourself so gently it almost works. Another sharp bite. This time on your wrist. Slap. Too late again. You sigh. The bars are too far apart to keep out bugs. They're designed for people. Unfortunately, that's not your problem right now. You want a net. A screen. A hazmat suit. Failing that, maybe a strong breeze to blow all this misery into someone else's cell. You wonder if the deputy ever gets bitten. Probably not. Probably walks around like he's coated in kerosene and spite. Bugs don't bite angry people. You try standing again. This time you pace in short. Nervous loops. Your boots thud on the floor, and you tell yourself it'll scare the insects. It doesn't. One skitters right across your path like it pays rent here. You sit again, defeated. The straw rustles. Again. You can't tell if it's a rat or just something the rat left behind. Either way, it's a party and you weren't invited. You're just a buffet. You slap your neck this time. Might have got it. Might have hit yourself for no reason. You're losing track. Fun fact. Bedbugs were such a problem in some frontier towns that hotels used to hang signs reading, "Fumigated weekly, by law." Jails didn't get that courtesy. You're You're just here absorbing the ecosystem. You close your eyes, breathe through your mouth, and try to visualize somewhere else. A clean bed. A fresh breeze. A room without movement under the floorboards. You almost get there. Then another bite. And another. And now the only thing you can picture is a swarm of tiny legs crawling up your socks like they're scaling a mountain called despair. You shift to a corner. The bugs follow. You switch to standing again. Your calves ache. The bugs don't care. You lean against the bars. Something nibbles your elbow. Eventually, you just stop reacting. Your body gives up the protest. Your brain starts filing the sensations under normal. And you realize, with slow, creeping dread, that you're adapting. That's the worst part. You're getting used to it. Time's gone strange in here. Not just slow, weird. Like it's stretching and shrinking all at once. You blink, and it feels like a minute passes. You blink again, and somehow it's only been a second. The air presses in on your skin like it's trying to weigh you down. The light, if you can call it that, is dim, flickering, and useless. The shadows? They move just enough to make you wonder. You realize you don't know how long you've been here. 5 minutes? 30? A year? You're not sure anymore. There's no clock. No window to track the sun. No rhythm except the drip, drip, drip from somewhere above your head. It's not consistent. It's not musical. Just a lazy, wet punctuation that echoes into the corners of your mind like it's trying to break something loose. Drip. Pause. Drip. Longer pause. Drip, drip, drip. Then nothing. That's worse. The silence in between is deafening. It stretches like old leather and leaves you wondering when it'll snap. You try to track time by counting your breaths. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. But that gets boring fast. So you start reciting something. The alphabet. A poem. A grocery list from your last normal day. Milk. Eggs. Bread. Soap. Freedom. You laugh. A short puff of breath through your nose. That's your first joke in here, and it's not even good. The old man coughs again. A long one this time. You don't think he's faking it. You don't think he can fake anything anymore. They say, he rasps, if you stay in long enough, you forget what outside smells like. You believe him. Because you're already forgetting what fresh air feels like. What movement looks like. What silence sounds like. In here, everything's stale, recycled, and suspiciously moist. You look up again at the ceiling. The source of the dripping is still invisible. Just a slow leak from somewhere, carrying with it the memory of old rain or something far worse. It might be coming from a chamber above. Or maybe it's just condensation collecting in the wood, finally giving up and letting go. Historically, Western jails rarely had insulation or proper drainage. Roofs leaked. Floors warped. Walls sweated in the heat and froze solid in the winter. Historians still argue whether jail design was ever really about containment, or just about giving folks a place to rot quietly until their problem solved itself. The room gets colder now. Or maybe it's your imagination. But something about the air feels heavier. Less oxygen, more regret. You exhale and see no mist, but it still feels like you should. You move again, your 5th time pacing, your 3rd time checking the back wall for escape routes. You find nothing. Just more boards and another suspicious patch of moisture shaped vaguely like a screaming face. You sit again. Legs stretched out. The bench creaks in a new way. Almost like it's mocking you. Your eyelids start to droop. No, you tell yourself. Not yet. Not in here. Because sleep here isn't rest. It's surrender. And worse, it makes the time move even slower. You'll wake up thinking you've made it, only to realize it's been 4 minutes and now your neck itches from whatever used your shoulder as a dance floor. You open your eyes wide. Try to stay alert. You rub your temples. Your fingers come back damp, not with sweat, but with condensation from the wall. Lovely. You shake your arms. Flex your fingers. Try to feel something. That's when you hear it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging, uneven. They're not coming toward you. They're pacing. Somewhere down the hall. One of your fellow inmates, maybe. Or something else. You strain your ears. Each step is followed by a soft scrape. Then a pause. Then another step. Scrape. Pause. Step. You close your eyes and listen harder. It sounds like someone walking in circles. Or pacing like you were. But it's not like you. It's slower. Less human. You don't like it. You press your back to the wall, knees pulled in. The dripping resumes. Closer now. Right above you. You want to scream. Or sing. Or do something loud to drown it out. But that would make you the weird one, wouldn't it? Instead, you whisper. Still just 1 hour. You say to yourself. That's all. But the walls disagree. They stretch that hour out like it's made of tar. And suddenly, you're not sure you remember the sound of a ticking clock. You try to mimic it. Click your tongue. Once a second. But even that loses rhythm. Tick. 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 Tick tick? Nope. Time is broken. You close your eyes for a second, just to blink. When you open them, the shadows have shifted. Not because the light changed. Because your brain did. And there it is again. Scrape. Pause. Step. Then the drip. Then silence. You whisper again. Just 1 hour. But even your voice sounds tired. You thought you'd reached the bottom of discomfort. You were wrong. Because now you have to deal with the bucket. It's in the corner. Has been since you got here. You noticed it, sure, but did your best to pretend it was just set dressing. Maybe a storage container. Maybe a decoration from some cruel frontier-themed escape room. But it's not. It's the latrine. Your latrine. And it's filling up faster than you'd hoped. The realization hits right after your third sip of tin cup water, when your stomach sloshes and your bladder sends a polite but firm message. Hey buddy, it's time. You freeze. Maybe you can hold it. You can't. You shift your weight. Clench everything. Try to talk yourself out of bodily functions. You think about deserts. About parched lands and cracked soil and, nope. None of it helps. Eventually, you do what everyone in this jail has done before you. You give in. You walk toward the bucket. It's metal. Dented. Covered in what might be rust, or something more sinister. There's no lid. Just a heavy smell curling upward like an invisible finger beckoning you closer. You hesitate. This is the point of no return. Even the bugs stay away from it. That tells you everything you need to know. You look around, as if privacy is an option. It isn't. The bars offer a full view of your shame. There's no curtain. No modesty. Just you, the bucket, and an old man in the next cell who's been here long enough to not even pretend he's not watching. Best to go now, he says softly. Before the sheriff forgets to empty it tomorrow. You sigh. You hover. You regret every life decision that led to this moment. And then, you go. It's awful. There's no gentle way to say this, it's humiliating. The metal echoes. The smell intensifies. The shame is immediate. The old man doesn't laugh. He doesn't need to. The bucket does it for him. You retreat quickly, pants half adjusted, like a raccoon caught raiding a cooler. You shuffle back to your bench, avoiding eye contact with the corner, and with your own sense of dignity. You sit in silence. It lingers. Everything lingers in here. Historically, sanitation in Western jails was non-existent. Most didn't have plumbing. The toilet was a pail, sometimes one shared between multiple inmates, sometimes one that sat in a cell for days before being emptied. Historians still argue whether these conditions were designed to humiliate prisoners or simply ignored out of laziness. You try breathing through your mouth again, but that only reminds you of the metallic taste in the air. You swear you can feel the smell. It wraps around your face, clings to your shirt. You wonder if it's soaked into your hair. You consider shaving your head when you get out. If you get out, you glance toward the hallway again. Still no signs of life. Just distant echoes. Maybe someone whistling. Or maybe it's your ears playing tricks again. You shift on the bench, trying to find a clean patch of wood. You fail. You remember a story you once heard, that some prisoners in the Old West begged to be shot instead of jailed. You used to think that was hyperbole. Now it feels more like foresight. You stand again. The bucket stares at you. You stare back. There's no winning. You step to the bars, grip them, press your forehead against the cold iron. It doesn't help. But it gives you something else to think about for a second. Then you hear it. The unmistakable sound of someone not making it to the bucket in time. A wet, squelching splatter. A curse. A groan. 2 cells down. You don't look. You can't. The old man mutters. Rookie mistake. You nod grimly. There's a reason the bucket's in the corner, and not in the middle of the room. There's a reason you're told to go early. Because there's no cleaning crew. There's no flush. There's just consequences. And now the consequences are oozing through the cracks in someone else's floorboards. You rub your temples. The drip is back. The pacing is back. The smell is worse. And you're sitting 3 feet from a tin bucket full of humiliation, thinking about how it's not even the worst part of this hour. That honor belongs to the realization that your body has more than one way to betray you. And you've still got a long, long way to go. You were told jails were lonely. You weren't told they were crowded. Not crowded in the usual sense. There's no party in here, no line for the mirror, no guy playing harmonica in the corner to lighten the mood. This kind of crowded is interpersonal roulette. Because you're not alone in this cell block, and unfortunately, you're not the weirdest person here. You start hearing the muttering again. At first, you think it's your thoughts. Then it gets louder. Louder than thoughts should be. You tilt your head. It's not the old man this time. He's gone quiet. Probably dreaming of his bucketless youth. No, this voice is sharper. It rises and falls like a wave of nonsense. You glance across the hall. And there he is. Middle cell, 3 rows down. Shirtless. Hair like a bird's nest after a windstorm. His eyes don't blink in the normal human pattern. They flick. You know the type. Every old western had one, the outlaw with a toothpick and a twitch. But this guy, he's not putting on a show. He is the show. He's pacing, barefoot, on a floor that you wouldn't touch with borrowed boots. He talks to himself, then shouts at the ceiling. Then laughs. Not a chuckle. A full-on vaudeville villain laugh, except there's no audience and no punchline. You shift farther from your own bars, as if his madness can't climb that far. It can. Who brought the dancing rats? He yells suddenly. You freeze. You look at the old man's cell. He doesn't react. The twitchy guy spins in a circle and whispers something to the wall. You hope the wall doesn't answer. He locks eyes with you. Oh. You look away. Too late. You, he hisses. You're the one who told them. You shake your head instinctively. Didn't tell anyone anything. You mutter under your breath, as if that would de-escalate a man who's currently debating with shadows. He steps closer to the front of his cell, rattles his own bars. I seen it, he growls. You blinked sideways. That's how they do it. Okay. That's enough eye contact for today. You back away and sit on the bench again, pretending you didn't just get called out by the human embodiment of a fever dream. Welcome to your cellmate experience. Historically, many frontier jails were overcrowded. There weren't enough resources to separate violent offenders from petty thieves, the mentally ill from the drunk and disorderly. Historians still argue whether sheriffs kept it this way on purpose, believing that a little fear might do more than iron bars ever could. And fear? Yeah, it's working. You watch as the man starts laughing again. Then crying. Then laughing while crying. You've never felt this much second-hand instability in your life. You turn back toward your own cell, trying to reclaim your personal bubble. Except there is no bubble. You're in a cage. Everyone can see you, smell you, hear you. Another voice joins the chaos. From the far end of the hall. A low drone, like a prayer. Maybe Latin? Maybe gibberish? Maybe the guy just really misses singing in a choir and has decided now's the time for a solo. You press your fingers to your temples. Deep breath. In. Out. You'll get used to him. The old man rasps, not even looking up. Just don't answer back. Why? Because that's how they know. You stop asking questions. Someone down the hall starts whistling. Not a song, just one note. Over and over. And off-key. You didn't think a single note could be off-key, but here you are, questioning everything you once believed about music theory. The pacing guy starts humming along. Great. Now you've got a duet. You look up at the ceiling. Still dripping. Still no help. Still no escape. You cross your arms. Your bench creaks. Your ribs itch. This isn't loneliness. It's worse. It's the constant presence of others with nowhere to put them. And the longer you sit here, the more you feel the boundary blur between, that guy's insane, and, how long until I start doing that? You close your eyes and try to imagine you're somewhere else. But all you can picture is a barefoot man screaming about dancing rats while someone hums off-key Gregorian chants in the background. You sigh. You're definitely not making it through this hour unscathed. There's a rhythm to this place. Not the kind you tap your foot to. Not one you dance to. More like a slow, jagged rhythm. The kind of uneasy tempo that comes from chaos trying to pretend it's under control. And at the center of that rhythm is the sheriff. You haven't seen much of him yet. But you feel him. There's a pressure in the building that changes whenever he moves. Like the atmosphere shifts 2 degrees colder when he walks down the hallway. Even the rats seem to scatter. You hear him now. His boots are different. Thicker heels. Slower. Measured. He doesn't need to rush. That's the luxury of being the law in a place like this. He stops just outside the holding block. No one speaks. Even the humming guy down the hall goes quiet, like someone flipped a switch. The barefoot ranter sits suddenly, cross-legged, muttering into his elbow. The sheriff's presence is gravity. A keyring rattles. Not frantic like the deputies earlier, this one is controlled. Purposeful. The door creaks open, and in he walks. The first thing you see is the hat. Wide-brimmed. Clean. Probably brushed daily. His duster jacket flows like a shadow behind him, and his belt buckle gleams with the kind of shine you don't expect to find in a building this dirty. He doesn't look at you, yet. He walks slowly past each cell, glancing just long enough to make sure you see his eyes. When he gets to yours, he stops. You try not to blink. He squints. Tilts his head slightly, as if cataloging you. "What's your name?" he asks, voice low, even. You answer. He repeats it back, not as a question, but like a file being stamped. "You the one who mouthed off at Jenkins?" You don't even know who Jenkins is. You start to shake your head, but his look tells you the answer doesn't matter. You'll stay put then. He moves on. That's it. No warning. No explanation. No chance to plead your case. He's not here to negotiate. He's not here to help. He's here to remind you that he decides everything. Whether you get water. Whether you get out. Whether you get remembered. Historically, Western sheriffs had nearly unchecked authority over their jails. With no centralized oversight and no standardized regulations, each town operated like its own kingdom. Historians still argue whether this raw autonomy kept peace, or enabled small-time tyrants to operate unchecked behind a badge and a locked door. You feel the weight of his gaze even after he's gone. Like it's stuck to the air and now it's coating the inside of your lungs. The twitchy guy across the hall lets out a shaky breath. You hadn't even realized he'd been holding it. He's in a mood, the old man rasps from your left. Isn't he always? Not always, he mutters. Sometimes he's worse. You try to shake off the feeling, but it stays. Because when the sheriff's in a good mood, people still go hungry. When he's in a bad mood, people disappear. You think about asking what that means, then decide you don't want to know. There's no one coming to save you. You knew that. But now the thought has weight. It sits in your lap, unwelcome and cold. Even if someone wanted to get you out, they need to go through him. And no one does that. No one walks into a Western sheriff's office and questions his judgment. Not unless they've got a bigger gun, or a death wish. You glance back down the corridor. The sheriff's boots fade into the outer office. You hear a chair creak. The sound of a page turning. He's reading now. Probably a newspaper. Probably not your charges. You exhale. Try to relax. Try to let your shoulders drop. But they won't. Not after that stare. Not after realizing your comfort, or your misery, depends entirely on the mood of a man with a star pinned to his chest and no one above him. You wonder what he does when he's bored. You hope you never find out. The deputy forgot your water. That's how it hits you, subtle, petty, and unmistakably intentional. Earlier, he slid your tray across the floor like you were a stray dog, but at least there was a tin cup on it. Now, as the tray sits abandoned near the corner, tipped at an angle and buzzing with interest from a few daring flies, you realize it was empty. Or maybe it had water and you were too distracted to notice. Either way, it's gone now. And no one's offering a refill. You lick your lips. Dry. You swallow. Scratchy. There's a thickness in your mouth that tastes like old wood and prison breath. You step toward the bars. Not to yell, because you already know better, but to exist. To be visible. You stand there like a statue. A thirsty statue hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone will make eye contact and throw you a mercy sip. No one does. The hallway is quiet. Too quiet. You think about calling out. You don't. Because here's the thing, asking for something in this place? That's a gamble. Sometimes you get it. Sometimes you get ignored. And sometimes you get remembered, and that's the worst outcome of all. You've seen what happens when prisoners annoy the staff. You've heard it too. A door opens. A man gets dragged out. Sometimes he comes back. Sometimes he doesn't. So you stand. And you wait. And your mouth gets drier. The old man notices. No water? You glance at him. Shake your head. He shrugs. Try breathing slower. That's not advice. That's resignation. Historically, Western jails had no plumbing and no consistent system for hydration. Water was given when remembered, or when convenient. Some jails relied on one bucket for multiple prisoners, while others left it to the mercy of the deputy's mood. Historians still argue whether dehydration was neglect, or just the natural result of jailing people where no one actually cared. You shift your weight. You eye the bucket. No. No chance. That's the wrong kind of liquid. You sit on the bench, lean forward, rest your elbows on your knees, and swallow again. Still dry. You run your tongue along your gums. They feel fuzzy. Not painful, just forgotten. Like even your own body is giving up on maintenance. You wonder how much water you could squeeze out of that damp corner. You don't actually plan to try. But the thought crosses your mind. That's where you are now. A drip echoes somewhere above. You look up, hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, that's not a ceiling leak but a stray miracle? You stand under it, tilt your head back, and wait. Drip. Nothing. Drip. Still nothing. You shuffle forward, adjust your aim. Drip. And this time, yes, a cold drop lands right on your lip. One drop. One tiny, filthy, rust-scented droplet of probably roof water. You savor it like it's aged wine. This is who you are now. You press your tongue to the roof of your mouth, rolling that one drop around like it's holy. The twitchy guy across the hall sees you. Don't drink the ceiling, he hisses. They put thoughts in there. You back away. Not because he's wrong. Not because he's right. But because he's watching. You wipe your mouth, ashamed of nothing but how much you enjoyed that drop. You sit again. Silent. Parched. Your lips are cracking now. You run a finger across them. Flaky. You wonder how long it takes for a person to get truly dehydrated. You once heard that symptoms start after just a few hours. Is that now? Is this it? Your body answers with a headache. Right behind your eyes. Thudding. Not sharp, but growing. You close your eyes and breathe slower, just like the old man said. It helps. A little. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just feels like it should. And now you're wondering, is this really happening, or is your brain starting to glitch? Because it's quiet. So quiet. And dry. So dry. And when you open your eyes again, the walls look different. The light seems yellower. The bars feel closer. You shake your head. Still here. Still thirsty. Still no water. You mutter aloud. Just 1 hour. But your voice cracks when you say it. Dinner was bad, but this is worse. You didn't think jail food could sink below cold beans and a weaponized biscuit, but here you are, staring down a tray that looks like it was pre-chewed by regret and served with a side of humiliation. Technically, it's breakfast. But no one here's calling it that with a straight face. It slides under the bars just past dawn, but you only know that because of the color shift in the hallway, not because anyone bothered to say, "Good morning." The tray holds 3 items. Something yellow and vaguely egg-shaped, steaming as if trying to escape itself. A thin slice of what may have once been pork, or maybe it's a piece of belt. Another biscuit. Somehow drier than yesterday's. You didn't think physics allowed that. The tin cup returns. Empty again. Of course. You stare at the yellow blob. It jiggles. You poke it with a finger, and it pushes back. You consider naming it. Maybe. Breakfastus horribilis. The twitchy man 2 cells down is already eating. Loudly. Slurping like a man who thinks manners are just government lies. He finishes and then licks the tray. Like it owes him money. You look down at yours again. Hunger is winning now. That tight, hollow feeling has given way to something more feral. You tear off a piece of biscuit, if you can call it tearing. It snaps like dry kindling. You chew. And chew. And chew. It refuses to become food. It just becomes smaller gravel. You move on to the yellow blob. You hold your breath. You dig in. It tastes like cardboard, regret, an egg if someone had described it to a chef who had never met an actual chicken. The texture is worse. Both slimy and dry. You didn't know that was possible. You gag. Silently. Then swallow anyway. Because there's no second tray coming. The old man grins from his cell. They only use real eggs on Hanjin days, he says. You pause. You don't ask if that's a joke. You're not sure you want to know. Historically, jail meals weren't meant to nourish. They were meant to sustain, and barely that. Flour, lard, and beans were staples. Anything else depended on what was cheap, canned, or discarded by local diners. Historians still argue whether the culinary neglect stemmed from budget constraints, or a quiet belief that prisoners didn't deserve better. You gnaw a bit of mystery meat. It tastes like brine, leather, and a lie. You chew and chew and chew. You don't even swallow on purpose. It just slides down eventually. The tin cup stares at you. Empty. You pretend to sip anyway. It helps. A little. Across the hall, the barefoot man whispers to his tray, then snaps it in half. You blink. How did he? Never mind. You push your tray back toward the bars. The deputy collects it without a word, and this time he does look at you. Briefly. Expressionless. Like you're a painting he's already seen and didn't much care for. He moves on. And just like that, breakfast is over. You sit back. Still hungry. Still thirsty. Still confused about what century your taste buds have entered. The room seems smaller now. Your belly feels heavy, but empty. Your head throbs. You glance around. No one looks better than you. Everyone here has the same posture, slumped shoulders, quiet eyes, jaws tight from chewing through survival. The barefoot man begins humming again. Something you recognize this time. A lullaby. Twisted. Out of tune. He stares directly at you as he hums. You close your eyes. Count to 10. When you open them again, the tray is gone. But the taste in your mouth? It stays. There's noise in here. Not loud noise. Not the kind that demands your attention. Worse. It's the kind that chips at you. You try to rest, just lean back on the bench, close your eyes, maybe doze a little. But the moment you start to slip under, it begins. Tap. 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 You open one eye. The man 3 cells down is tapping the wall with a spoon. You didn't even know he had a spoon. Where did he get it? Why is he doing this? Tap. Tap. Pause. Tap. It's not Morse code. It's not musical. It's just persistent. Like a faucet drip in a concrete room where the sound has nowhere to go but inside your brain. You sit up. Shift your legs. Breathe. And then comes the singing. Not full volume. Not theatrical. Just a soft, breathy rendition of something that might have been a hymn, if the lyrics weren't being replaced with animal sounds. Lamb of God. Ba ba ba. You can't make this up. You don't want to. You squeeze your eyes shut. Try to imagine the sound of wind through trees. Waves. A quiet fire. Anything. But this is jail. And jail doesn't do ambience. It does madness. You hear a cough behind you. Then someone snorts, spits, and shouts. You tell him, Clarence! No one is named Clarence. You don't even look. The old man murmurs. Wednesday's always like this. It's not Wednesday. Historically, jailers in the Old West weren't trained to handle mental illness, or chose not to. Many towns had no asylums, and the jail became a catch-all for drunks, vagrants, the mentally unstable, and the unlucky. Historians still argue whether Western jails served justice, or just hid the people society didn't want to see. You lean against the bars. Close your eyes again. But now someone's laughing. High-pitched. Sporadic. Like a kid watching someone slip on a banana peel for the first time. It's not a joyful laugh. It's the kind that starts to stick in your ears. You count backwards from 10. You get to 6 before a fly buzzes into your ear canal and resets the timer. You slap it away. Miss. Across the hall, someone's pacing again. Not the barefoot guy. He's humming now, stroking his chin and staring at a spot on the wall that looks suspiciously like a face. This new pacer is silent. Heavy footfalls. No words. Just circles. Over and over. You match your breaths to his steps for a while. Just to have something to hold on to. Something steady. But then he stops. And your body panics because the rhythm is gone. You open your eyes again. You feel like you've lived 1,000 years in this room, and your legs still ache from doing nothing. You stand. Pace. 4 steps forward. 4 steps back. You try to sync with the silent man across the hall. But now he's sitting. And now you're alone again. The noise doesn't stop. It just rotates. A whisper. A cough. A spoon tap. A lullaby. A giggle. A sigh. The ceiling drip resumes. It always returns. Like a bad ex. You check the corners again. Same bugs. Same rust. Same memories in the wood. Your jaw clenches. You don't notice until it hurts. Your fingers twitch. You catch yourself muttering something, 3 words, over and over. Just 1 hour. Just 1 hour. Just 1 hour. You realize now, you're 1 tap, 1 cough, 1 spoon scrape away from joining them. From picking up a rhythm and making it your own. And somehow, that is the scariest part of all. The sound of metal comes next. Not a crash or clang, something more intimate. A faint clink-clink, like coins in a pocket or the dragging of chain over wood. You freeze, ears pricking up like a deer that knows it's already been seen. You turn your head slowly toward the hallway. And there it is. A man. Shuffled in like an afterthought. Ankles bound together by iron shackles that chime with every tiny step. He moves like he's forgotten how. Slow. Bent. Shoulders hunched in a way that's either defeat or just habit. The deputy leads him in, barely saying a word. "Cell 4, the deputy mutters. The man doesn't answer. His wrists are cuffed too, and there's a strange silence about him, as if sound itself avoids him. He doesn't grunt. Doesn't mumble. Doesn't even blink too much. You watch as the door to his cell opens. It creaks like everything else in this place, like it resents being useful. He steps inside. Turns. Sits. That's it. The door closes behind him with a metallic sigh. Clink. He's just there now. Across the way, the twitchy guy stops humming. The old man next to you clears his throat once, then says in a low voice, "He's not like the others." You don't like the way he says it. You nod without really meaning to. You try not to stare. But something about the shackled man pulls at you. He doesn't move like someone tired. He moves like someone calculating. Someone who isn't here by accident. Someone who doesn't need to pace or tap or scream to be the most dangerous person in the room. His eyes open. You didn't even notice they were shut. They look around. Slowly. Calmly. Like a predator in no hurry. And then they land on you. You blink. He doesn't. You hold eye contact for exactly 1 second too long. Then look away. It's not fear, not exactly. It's recognition. That slow, sick feeling that tells you you're not the most dangerous animal in the cage anymore. Historically, Western jails housed every kind of criminal, from the guy who stole a horse to the guy who killed 5 people with a broken shovel. There were no separations. No low-risk wing. No psychiatric evaluations. Historians still argue whether mixing such wildly different prisoners was a failure of design, or part of the punishment. You sit again. A little stiffer now. The old man chuckles dryly. They say he burned a barn with 3 men inside it. Stayed to watch it fall. 8 beans after. You don't ask who they are. You don't want confirmation. The shackled man still hasn't moved. Still staring straight ahead. Still breathing like nothing matters. You glance at his ankles. Those cuffs are old, worn, and tight. You wonder how long he's been in them. Or how long he's been waiting to get out of them. You don't know what he did. You don't need to. This is a man who belongs in chains. You're just visiting. But for the next however many minutes, you're neighbors. And in a place like this, that means something. That means if things go sideways, it won't be the humming guy or the wall tapper who snaps. It'll be him. The man who hasn't blinked. The man who watches everything. Including you. You start to smell yourself. Not faintly. Not gradually. No, this hits you like a truth you can't unsay. You stink. It's the kind of odor that rises off your skin like heat from desert asphalt. Thick, sour, lived in. Your shirt is damp. Your socks cling. Your armpits feel like a slow-cooked sin. You sniff your collar. Instantly regret it. You sit back, arms folded like that will contain the damage. It doesn't. It just concentrates it. The worst part? You don't even smell like you anymore. You smell like here, like old straw, fierce sweat, and unwashed wood. You've absorbed the jail like it's a cologne you never consented to. You glance at the old man. He doesn't even blink. Give it another hour, he says. You won't notice. That's not comfort. That's surrender. You shift on the bench, which lets off a groan like a dying meal. Every movement creates a new puff of air that brings some terrible discovery. There's no soap here. There's no basin. No towel. No cloth. No privacy. Just you, your pores, and a growing cloud of biological betrayal. You wipe your face on your sleeve. It comes back shiny. You wipe again. Same result. It's not sweat anymore. It's residue. You check your hands. The grime under your nails has its own zip code now. Your fingertips are turning gray, not from blood flow issues, just from everything you've touched since you got here. The bars. The bench. The floor. That corner you don't talk about. You look down at your pants. Dust smears something that could be oil, or something that used to be alive. You tell yourself it's dirt. But dirt doesn't smear like that. Historically, hygiene in Western jails was non-existent. Inmates often wore the same clothes for weeks. There were no uniforms, no change-outs. Prisoners relieved themselves inches from where they slept and ate. Historians still argue whether the intent was degradation or simply that no one cared enough to fix it. You run a hand through your hair. Bad idea. Your scalp feels like it's growing a second scalp. Sticky. Itchy. Alive in a way it shouldn't be. You scratch, lightly at first. Then again. Then harder. You stop when you feel something flake off. You don't look to see what it was. You already know it's not from shampoo. You glance toward the hallway. Still no soap fairy. Still no deputy. Still no reason to think you'll leave this place with your skin's integrity intact. You wonder how long it takes for someone to get used to this. Not just the smell, but the feeling. The slow slide into being someone who doesn't flinch at their own odor. Who stops trying to wipe the grime off. Who starts licking a finger before picking food off the floor because the mental gap between me and this place has already collapsed. That's the danger. Not the sheriff. Not the pacing madman. Not even the guy in shackles who's now humming a funeral tune with his eyes still locked on yours. It's this. The drift. That invisible erosion where you go from someone locked in a cell to someone who belongs here. You can feel it. Minute by minute. Sweat by sweat. You think of your last shower. How hot the water was. The smell of clean soap. The scrape of a towel across a fresh back. It feels like a memory from another life. You cross your arms tighter, like maybe you can trap some last molecule of decency inside your ribs. But you already know. It's gone. Drip. 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 It's back again. Louder this time. Or maybe your nerves are just thinner. You blink slowly, neck stiff from holding still too long, and glance upward. The spot in the ceiling hasn't moved, hasn't changed. Still leaking from some unknown place. Still hitting the same spot on the floor, soft thud on warped wood. Over and over. Like a metronome set to mentally unravel. You try tuning it out. It doesn't work. Your body's sore. Not the kind of sore that comes from exertion, the kind that settles in when you've done nothing for too long. Your legs ache from being still. Your back hurts from sitting. Your ribs feel tight from the recycled breath of 100 ghosts. You stretch. Bad idea. Your shoulder cracks. Loudly. Echoes off the wall. Someone coughs in response. You freeze again. You've learned that every sound in here is currency. The quieter you stay, the less you owe. The less attention you draw, the less likely you are to be dragged into someone else's psychodrama. Because in here, everyone's reality is a few wrong thoughts away from crumbling. Case in point, the guy in the third cell over has decided today is trial day. He's pacing in straight lines, stopping at invisible podiums, yelling objections to no one. Sometimes he slams his hand against the wall, shouts, "I rest my case," and sits dramatically on the floor. He hasn't been to a real trial in years, if ever. The old man next to you gives a soft grunt. "That's Dale," he mutters. "He used to be a lawyer. Or a preacher. Or a liar. Couldn't remember which." Dale slams his hand against the wall again. "Sustained!" You flinch. He resumes pacing. In your own cell, the drip continues. Drip. Drip. You wonder what's up there. You hope it's just water. Could be rain from days ago trapped in the roof. Could be a broken pipe. Could be worse. You think about standing underneath it again, letting a drop land on your tongue. You don't. You've lowered your standards a lot, but not that much. Not yet. You shift on the bench and feel something hard press into your thigh. You reach into your pocket. Forgotten. A matchbook. The one from earlier. The one they didn't notice, or maybe didn't care about. It's folded, soft, probably damp now. But it's there. It shouldn't comfort you. It does. You run your fingers along the edges. It's something from outside. Something that reminds you existed before this hour. That there's a world beyond this jail. That you once lit candles or cigarettes or a campfire. Anything besides just sitting here watching mold grow and sanity melt. You flip it open. No matches. Of course not. But the cardboard itself feels important. A relic. A tether. You tuck it back in your pocket like a secret. A gift. A weapon if you're creative. Historically, inmates smuggled all sorts of items into jails. Notes, blades, flasks, keepsakes. Most jails didn't have the manpower to search thoroughly. Some didn't care. Historians still argue whether what made those jails dangerous was what came in, or what was allowed to stay. You shift again, stand, stretch. The smell is still there. Still you. Still this place. The air tastes like rust and old bread. The barefoot man across the hall has gone silent again, but he's smiling now. You don't like that. Smiles in here are rarely about joy. Dale yells, "Motion denied!" and punches the air. You sit again. And the drip hits the floor just in time with your exhale. You close your eyes. And whisper it again. Just 1 hour. But your voice is softer now. Less certain. Because if time were playing fair, you'd be free already. The walls are breathing. At least, that's what it feels like now. They expand with your exhale. Contract as you inhale. The wood creaks in a slow, shifting rhythm that seems to match your pulse. Or maybe manipulate it. You don't know anymore. You press your palm against the wall behind you. It's damp. Not wet like spilled water, clammy. The kind of damp that seeps through years of sweat, breath, and hopelessness. The kind that never dries. The kind that lingers even after the building's long gone. You pull your hand away and stare at your fingers. They glisten. You wipe them on your pants and tell yourself the fabric soaks it up. It doesn't. The moisture is now just part of you. You turn to the bars for air, forgetting for the moment that there's no wind in here. Just heat. Trapped, unmoving heat. The kind that has nowhere to go, so it just sticks to every surface, including your brain. The barefoot man is crouching now. Still smiling. Still silent. Dale has fallen asleep, snoring loudly, a fist still raised like he's mid-argument in his dreams. The old man next to you hums something tuneless. And the shackled one? Still staring. He hasn't blinked in 10 minutes. Maybe longer. You try to avoid his gaze, but it draws you back in, like a hook behind your eye socket. There's nothing angry about his stare. Just calculated. Like he's counting something. Maybe time. Maybe you. You sit again. Slowly. Quietly. And that's when you hear it. The faintest sound. Scrape, scrape, scrape. You freeze. It's not loud. Not close. But it's unmistakable. Metal against stone. You strain your ears. It's coming from the far end of the hallway. Not boots. Not footsteps. This is dragging. Not something heavy. Something deliberate. You try to peek through the bars, but the angle won't let you see that far. Then it stops. Silence. No footsteps. No voice. No coughs. Even Dale's snoring goes still. And then, suddenly, a bell. A small one. Ding. You don't know why that's worse. You stare through the bars again. Still nothing. No one's moving. The bell doesn't ring again. The old man clears his throat. Well, that's not great. You look at him. What was that? He shrugs one shoulder. Could be supper. Could be a death sentence. Depends on the town. You blink. Do they usually use a bell for executions? He shrugs again. Only if they want an audience. You don't ask what that means. You don't want to know. Historically, some frontier jails were attached to makeshift gallows. A sentence could be handed down in the morning, carried out by dusk. No jury. No appeal. Just a rope, a drop, and maybe, if you were lucky, a priest with the decency to shut the crowd up. Historians still argue whether these executions were about justice, or just spectacle. You sit with that thought for a while. You try to believe you're not here for anything that serious. You try to remember what they even said when they brought you in. But it's all blurred now. Like a dream you had before the real nightmare began. You rub your wrists. You're not shackled. Yet. That shouldn't be a relief. But it is. You glance down at the shackled man. Still watching. You try not to imagine the bell was for him. You try not to imagine the bell was for you. You lean back against the breathing wall, close your eyes, and whisper the words like a prayer. Just 1 hour. But now it sounds like a question. Hey, if you like these stories, please comment number 1. If not satisfied, comment number 2 so we can improve the topic better. You try to sleep. You really do. Not because you're tired, though you are, but because sleep might be the only way to make time skip forward. Even just 5 minutes. A blink. A pocket of nothing between now and freedom. But jail doesn't let you sleep. Not the way you need to. You shift. You lie back on the bench. One arm under your head, the other across your chest, as if protecting something. There's no pillow. The wood digs into your spine like it wants to leave a message. You close your eyes. And instantly regret it. Because now you hear everything. The breathing. The humming. The scratching behind the wall. Rats? Termites? Thoughts? You squeeze your eyes tighter. You try that old trick, picture a field, tall grass, birdsong. But jail has already leaked into your imagination. The birds are vultures. The grass smells like mildew. The breeze carries the sound of distant sobbing. You groan. The bench creaks. Someone chuckles. Not at you, just, in general. That's somehow worse. You open one eye. Dale is whispering in his sleep now. Something about the ledger. Something about not enough beans. You decide that's a personal problem and turn away. Your neck hurts. You adjust. Slowly. Quietly. Your shoulder cramps. You adjust again. The bench moans in protest. Sleep isn't happening. Historically, jail cells in the Old West didn't have beds, just benches, planks, or bare ground. No mattress. No padding. No linens. In some towns, straw was provided. In others, you got what you brought. Historians still argue whether denying sleep was a design flaw, or part of the punishment itself. You turn onto your side. Curl your knees. Try again. A loud snore cuts through the silence like a saw through pine. You sit up. Jaw clenched. It wasn't Dale this time. It was the barefoot man. Still smiling. Still humming. His eyes are open now. And they're locked on the ceiling. Like he's waiting for something to fall. You lie back down. You can't keep your eyes closed now. Not with that look. So you stare at the ceiling too. It's warped. Water-stained. There's something scratched into the beam directly above your bench. You squint. It says, "Keep breathing." You blink. Hard. You stare again. It's still there. "Keep breathing." You whisper it aloud, just to hear it in the room. It doesn't sound like encouragement. It sounds like warning. You try again to sleep. You get close. Just long enough for your body to almost forget where you are. And then, clang. A tray hits the bars of a cell 2 doors down. Someone yelps. Someone swears. Someone coughs. You're fully awake again. You swing your legs down. Feet hit the floor. Splinters scrape your heel through your sock. You don't care. You stare at the floor. Breathe in. It smells worse now. Like something new has died. Or something old is finally giving up. You look at the bench again. The same one. The only one. You wonder how many people have slept, tried to sleep, right here. You wonder how many did. You wonder how many didn't wake up. The shackled man is still awake. Eyes still open. Staring straight ahead. Maybe he never sleeps. Maybe he doesn't need to. You glance at the bars. Still locked. Still cold. Still separating you from, what, exactly? A hallway. A different kind of prison? You lie down again anyway. Because trying feels better than not trying. Even when it doesn't work. Even when it never does. You close your eyes. Say it again. Just 1 hour. But you're starting to think that this is the hour. That this has always been the hour. And that it never ends. The rats come out when the lights go down. Not that the lights ever really go down. This place runs on twilight and shadows. But there's a point when things get quieter. Stiller. Like the jail is exhaling after holding its breath all day. That's when you hear them. Skittering. Scratching. Tiny claw taps on old wood. One starts near your bench. You freeze. You look down. Nothing. Then a blur shoots across the corner of your vision. Fast. Brown. Confident. You jerk your legs up onto the bench. Knees to chest. The old man in the next cell laughs. Not mean, just tired. They don't bite unless they're hungry. You glance at him. Are they hungry? He shrugs. Aren't we all? Great. You stay on the bench, curled up now like a kid trying not to make waves. You hear another rat scuttle under the straw in the corner. It makes a sound like someone crumpling papers soaked in grease. You whisper, "Don't come up here." Like that'll help. The rats don't listen. They live here. This is their home. You're the intruder. Historically, rats were as common in Western jails as dirt and despair. Food scraps, human waste, and lack of sanitation made cells ideal breeding grounds. Historians still argue whether prisoners were more afraid of disease, or waking up with a rat sitting on their chest. You remember that story, maybe a movie, maybe real, about a guy who got bit in his sleep. Infection set in. The whole foot went black. No doctor. Just a knife and a bottle of whiskey. You pull your socks tighter. Across the hall, someone shouts in their sleep. The barefoot man? No. Dale? Maybe. You don't care. Because now something moves under your bench. A bump. Then silence. You hold your breath. Then squeak. You lose it. You leap up. Bench groans. Your knee hits the wall. Your breath comes out like a whisper-shaped scream. You stand there, scanning the floor, heart thudding so loud it could wake the dead. If there weren't already several kinds of the undead in here. You stare at the straw. It moves. Not fast. But just enough. You don't sit back down. You stand in the center of the cell, arms crossed, feet apart, like that'll make a difference. Another rat darts past the bars. This one's bold. He pauses just outside your cell, looks up at you, judges you, then disappears into the shadows like he's late for something. You hear chewing now. Tiny, determined. Somewhere behind the wall. You hope it's not your wall. The shackled man finally blinks. It's unsettling how that alone makes you feel better. At least he's human. You think. He glances toward the rat noises. Then back to you. He doesn't smile. That would have been worse. You stay standing. You try not to think about how long you can stay standing. Your legs already ache. Your back's tight. But sitting feels like surrender. And more importantly, it feels like bait. The bench is now the rat's turf. You're just renting space. Somewhere down the corridor, someone sings a lullaby again. Off key. The drip continues. The rats continue. You don't. You stand still and whisper the words like a lifeline. Just 1 hour. But the rats? They don't keep time. Your legs begin to shake. Not from fear. From fatigue. You've been standing for who knows how long. Long enough that your calves throb, your knees feel like overcooked beans, and the bottoms of your feet buzz like tuning forks. But you still won't sit. The rats have quieted for now. Or maybe they're just watching. You glance down at the bench again. You can't tell if it's safer now or just more familiar in its menace. It might be the only object in your life that has made you question both your dignity and your survival instinct. You lower yourself slowly, carefully, like a trap is waiting. You sit. Nothing happens. You exhale. A small win. But then the bench gives off that same complaining creak, its nightly hymn, and somehow that sound carries more judgment than anything the shackled man has said without speaking. You try leaning back. No go. Your spine cracks, your ribs stretch, and the wall behind you feels wet again. Of course. You pull your arms in, hug your knees, and rest your chin on top. You are a fortress of bone and denial. The air smells worse. It changes by the hour, you realize. A rotating selection of offenses. Earlier it was mildew and sweat. Now it's more like vinegar and wet rope. The floorboards are swollen. You hadn't noticed before. The wood near the bucket is warping upward, probably from whatever's been spilled, dumped, or, let's be honest, leaked. You don't want to know. You close your eyes. And the memories start. Not like a movie. Not even a flashback. More like static. Images that don't line up. Your house. A cup of coffee. The sound of your name spoken normally. A breeze. A bed. Someone laughing. You can't tell if it's memory or imagination anymore. And then, a voice. Right behind you. Is it your first time? You jerk upright. Turn. No one. Just the cell. Just the wall. You look toward the old man. He's asleep. Breathing shallow. The shackled man? Still watching. Still not speaking. You scan the hallway. No one there. Your breath shortens. Maybe you imagined it. Maybe you didn't. Historically, prolonged isolation, or even short-term confinement in extreme conditions, has triggered hallucinations in otherwise healthy individuals. Sensory deprivation, malnutrition, dehydration, all little knives, whittling away at reality. Historians still argue whether frontier justice intended this side effect, or just called it character building. You try to shake it off. Stand up again. Legs wobble. You reach for the bars. Hold tight. The cold is reassuring. It reminds you you're real. Still here. Still solid. Then, you hear it again. This time, closer. Don't turn around. You whip your head to the side. Nothing. Your heartbeat spikes. You scan the floor. The bench. The corners. Still nothing. The shackled man cocks his head slightly. Not at you, at something. You stare at him. He lifts one finger. Slowly. Presses it to his lips. SHHHHH. No sound. Just a gesture. Then he smiles. That's the first time. And it's not comforting. It's knowing. You step back. You press into the far wall, breathing shallow. It's cold. The wood creaks under your spine. You whisper it again. Just 1 hour. This time, you don't believe it. This time, it feels like a lie. Because you've lost track of time. You've lost track of you. And the jail? It hasn't lost track of anything. You sit perfectly still now. Not because you're calm, but because motion seems to invite things. Sounds. Whispers. Scratches. So you stay frozen? Like prey. Your eyes scan the room in short, sharp bursts. You don't look anywhere for too long, because you're starting to think the longer you stare, the more things appear. The bench is breathing again. No, it's creaking. Probably. You clench your jaw. Try to focus on something solid. Your knees. The grain in the wood. The iron bars. Anything real. And then you hear it. From inside the wall. 3 knocks. Knock. 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 Even. Dull. From behind. You press your back tighter to it, suddenly unsure if you're keeping something in, or keeping yourself out. You don't move. Then soft, so soft you could miss it. Still in there? It's not your voice. You whip your head around. No one's there. You close your eyes. Count to 5. You whisper to yourself. I am real. I am here. This is temporary. The old man coughs. You jump. He glances over at you, like he's checking to see how far you've slipped. You're starting to hear it, huh? You nod. He nods too. That's the wall ghost. She don't mean much. Just talks. Gets loud if you answer though. You blink at him. You're kidding, right? He shrugs. Hope so. You don't ask again. Because part of you believes him. And that part is growing louder. Historically, jailhouse folklore spread fast, especially among long-term prisoners. Stories of spirits, curses, and mysterious sounds were common, especially in small towns where executions, hangings, and unmarked burials were regular events. Historians still argue whether these stories were coping mechanisms, or cautionary tales with a truth no one dared to prove. You glance again at the wall. It's just wood. Warped. Splintered. Whispering. You turn back toward the cell door. Grip the bars. Steel. Cold. Still. That helps. A little. Until you notice a new sound. A ticking. Not loud. Not steady. Just there. It's not a watch. No one in here has one. But it's ticking. Offbeat. Like a broken pocket watch buried under the floorboards, trying to finish its last sentence. You shift your weight. Try to locate it. It's coming from beneath the bench. Nope. You stand again. Muscles scream. You ignore them. You back away. And the ticking fades. You step forward again. Tick to tick. Step back. Silence. Your heart thuds. This place is playing games now. And you're not sure who's winning. You glance across the hallway. The barefoot man is rocking now. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. Eyes open. Smile gone. You look at the shackled man. Still. Like a portrait. He raises one eyebrow. You sit down again, nowhere else to go. The bench groans. You close your eyes. And the voice returns. Still in there? You whisper back. No. And the wall says, very softly. Good. You stop responding to the wall. That feels like progress. You still hear it, sure. But now it's like the static of a broken radio, always mumbling in the background, always almost saying something. But you don't give it the satisfaction. Not anymore. You sit still. You don't speak. You don't blink too often either. Blinking feels indulgent. Instead, you watch. And wait. The corridor is quiet, but not peaceful. More like expectant. Like everyone's holding their breath and nobody told you why. You glance down the hallway. The cells are still full, but the noise has faded. Dale's asleep, twitching like he's defending himself in court again. The barefoot man is still. His smile has vanished. That might be worse. The shackled man? Unmoved. Unblinking. Unnerving. Even the old man beside you, once a fountain of coughs and cryptic wisdom, has gone quiet. He just stares straight ahead now, eyes glassy, mouth barely open, as if something's been whispered to him too many times. You start to wonder if this is the hour that breaks people. Not the first one. Not the last. This one. The part where your body gives in, but your mind still thinks it can fight back. The middle. And that's when it hits you. You haven't seen the deputy in a while. Not since breakfast. Not since the tray with the yellow blob. You step to the bars. Peer down the corridor. No boots. No keys. No voice. The light from the front office has dimmed to a warm, hazy flicker. No shadows moving. No pages turning. Just stillness. It's wrong. Even in this nightmare, there was movement. Noise. Someone to yell at you. Someone to ignore you. Now? Nothing. You whisper. Hello? The word vanishes in the air. No echo. You try again. Louder. Anyone? No reply. Not even a cough from Dale. You press your face to the bars. Still nothing. You back away, heart picking up. The old man finally speaks. Barely audible. They left once. Years ago. Forgot we were here. You stare. What? He nods, slow, creaky. Sheriff. Deputies. Whole town got drunk. Or burned. Or run off. He doesn't clarify. By the time someone came back, 3 of us were bones. You don't know if he's serious. You don't ask. Because part of you believes him. Historically, some frontier jails were so poorly staffed and remote that prisoners were genuinely forgotten, overnight, for days, even permanently during town evacuations or disasters. Historians still argue whether this was neglect, incompetence, or simply the chaotic reality of frontier justice. You glance at the bucket. Still full. No one's emptied it. You glance at the tray slot. Still closed. No one's refilled it. You press your hand to your chest. Heartbeat fast, irregular. You lick your lips. Still dry. Still no water. Still no footsteps. You begin to wonder, are you alone now? Not in the nobody's here way. In the maybe the building's empty and you didn't notice way. You look at the others. No one meets your eye. You try to speak again. No one replies. Your throat tightens. You whisper, just 1 hour. And this time, no one corrects you. No one laughs. No one says anything at all. You count the seconds between your breaths now. Not on purpose, it just happens. It's the only rhythm left. The pacing stopped. The coughing stopped. Even the dripping has gone silent, like the ceiling decided to give up on leaking, or maybe it's just waiting for you to lower your guard again. You look out through the bars. Nothing. No movement. No deputies. No sheriff. No bell. The jail has entered a state of stillness that feels manufactured. Like someone has their hand on that pause button and they're holding it just long enough for the anxiety to curdle. You press your ear to the bars. Still no sound. Then you realize something truly awful. The jail is too quiet. Even the mice are gone. Even the rats. You sit back down. Not because you want to, but because your knees give out. Your whole body's buzzing now, like it's short-circuiting from the silence. You rub your hands together, not to warm them, but to hear something. Anything. The sound of skin on skin is embarrassingly loud. You whisper, still here. Not to anyone. Just to keep your voice in use. Across the hall, the barefoot man blinks. Once. Slowly. You whisper again, louder. Hello? He blinks again. No smile. No words. The old man next to you moves. A twitch, like he was jolted awake inside his own stillness. He turns his head. His voice is rougher now. Drier. You feel it too? You nod slowly. What is it? You ask. He doesn't answer right away. Then, softly. It's the part where the jail decides if you stay. You stare at him. What do you mean? He looks at the bars. Not at you. If it likes you, you leave. And if it doesn't? His lips twitch. You stay. You swallow. It catches halfway down. You rise again. You need to see outside. Just a sliver. Just something not made of wood and iron and the stink of decay. You grip the bars. The hallway is still there. Dim. Colorless. Like a photograph you left in the sun too long. You call out again. Hey! Anyone! No answer. Your voice bounces once, then dies like it didn't matter. You turn back. Everyone's where they were. Still. Too still. Even the shackled man, who never stopped watching, has gone completely motionless, head tilted slightly, like a doll propped up for display. You close your eyes. Try to ground yourself. 5 fingers. 4 limbs. 3 meals missed. 2 eyes. 1 brain. Still working, probably. Historically, jails in remote western towns were often built with materials that warped, shifted, even groaned as the temperature changed. Some inmates reported hallucinations that lined up with physical features, warped wood patterns that looked like faces, whistling cracks in walls that whispered their names. Historians still argue whether these stories were born from stress or the unique acoustics of decay. You open your eyes. You whisper again. Just 1 hour. But it's been more than that. It has to have been. You step toward the bars, press your face against them again. And in the reflection on the metal, you see a door. Just barely. Way down the hall. Cracked open. The light behind it is soft. Warm. Different. Your breath catches. You blink. It's gone. Just a wall. No door. No light. No exit. You pull back. Hands shaking now. The jail just showed you hope, and took it away. You sit again. The bench creaks. The air thickens. And from deep in the wall behind you, 3 knocks. You don't move. Not after the knocks. Not after the door that wasn't there. You sit, frozen in place, spine straight, arms stiff at your sides. You try not to blink, not to breathe too loudly. Because the jail is listening now. You can feel it. The walls don't creak anymore. They hum. Low. Subtle. Like a distant train that never arrives. Like something old and wooden remembering how to sing. You grip the edge of the bench until your knuckles turn white. Then you do something dangerous. You look at the shackled man. And he's not looking back. He's standing. Chains still on his ankles. Arms at his sides. Eyes closed. Like he's praying, or bracing. He starts to rock. Just slightly. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. You whisper. What are you doing? He doesn't open his eyes. The chains at his feet shift, just barely. A soft metallic kiss against the floor. The old man beside you mutters. It's starting. You turn. What is? But his eyes are shut too now. Lips moving in silence. Dale's sitting up. Staring at the floor. Mouth open, but no sound. The barefoot man hums again, but this time, it's low. Vibrating. In sync with the walls. You press yourself against the bars. Hello? You shout. Your voice dies. Not echoes. Not fades. Dies, as if the air itself refused to carry it. You back away. Breathing fast. Mind racing. Then a sound. The door at the end of the hall, the one you saw in the reflection, opens. No footsteps. Just a slow creak. And then nothing. You step toward the bars again. The door is open now. You didn't imagine it. There's light spilling in. Warm. Yellow. Gentle. It doesn't belong here. You glance at the others. None of them move. Not a flinch. Not a breath. You shout again. The door! It's open! Nothing. You grip the bars tighter. Door's open! Still nothing. They don't look at you. They don't see you. You wonder if they ever did. Historically, there were accounts, unofficial, whispered, of prisoners vanishing from frontier jails. No paperwork. No witnesses. Just gone. Theories ranged from escape to execution to something stranger. Historians still argue whether these were cover-ups, or the kind of stories only whispered when lanterns burn low. You shake the bars. They don't move. You rattle harder. Nothing. Not even the chain clink of protest. You kneel. Inspect the lock. It's old. Rust flaked. But solid. You whisper. Come on, just open. As if words alone could break steel. As if this jail cares. You turn your eyes back to the open door. Still there. Still spilling that impossible light. And for one terrible moment, you wonder if it's for you. You take a step back. You whisper again. Just 1 hour. But the words taste different now. They taste like bait. And somewhere behind you, the wall knocks again. 4 times this time. You don't answer the knocks this time. Not because you're brave, but because you finally understand the rules. This jail doesn't want you to panic. It wants you to participate. It feeds on reaction, not rebellion. So you sit. Still. Silent. The others do too. The shackled man now faces the open door, but he hasn't moved. The barefoot man hums softer. Almost sweetly. Like a lullaby meant for something else. Dale? Still. The old man? Breathing slow. Eyes still closed. You look back at the door. Still open. Still glowing like an invitation you don't remember asking for. It's not sunlight. You know that now. It's too soft. Too warm. Too gentle for this place. It doesn't belong. It's a trap. But what kind? A trick of the mind? A final test? Or something older? Something built into the bones of the jail itself? You whisper. What happens if I go? The old man finally replies. You don't. You lean toward his cell. What if I do? He opens his eyes. And that's when you realize. They're gray. Not with age. With dust. Pale and glassy, like stone rolled smooth by years of looking at nothing but walls and lies. You don't go, he says again, firmer this time. Or you stay. That's the same thing. You murmur. No, he whispers. It's not. You turn back to the bars. The light pulses once. A soft flicker. Not inviting anymore. Urgent. It wants you to move. You grip the bars again. They tingle. Like static. Or memory. You press harder. And they shift. Not open. Not unlock. Just soften. Like they want you to go, too. Historically, some inmates recorded dream escapes, experiences in which they believed they left their cells, only to wake up hours or days later, still locked in place. Some claimed it was fever. Others swore it was real. Historians still argue whether these were hallucinations, or temporary fractures in the mind's ability to resist hope. You press your forehead to the bars. The air near the door smells different. Not rot. Not sweat. Something sweet. Lavender? No. Lilac. Something your mother grew. Something you haven't smelled in years. You close your eyes. And suddenly you're there. Sun. Wind. A picnic blanket. Someone laughs. You open your eyes again. Gone. Back in the cell. Back in the heat. Back in the dark. You take a breath. Say the words. Just 1 hour. But this time you feel it. The hour has passed. You don't know when it ended. But it did. And now you have a choice. You look one last time at the open door. Still there. Still waiting. Still impossible. And behind you. Knock. 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 You whisper. I didn't open it. The shackled man smiles. And speaks. Didn't have to. The shackled man's voice echoes longer than it should. 4 words. Soft. Even. But they split the air like thunder in a sealed room. Didn't have to. You stare at him. He doesn't move. His smile doesn't grow. It doesn't need to. Because the door, still open, begins to creak wider. Just a little. No footsteps. No wind. No deputy. No explanation. It just opens, wider. You don't step forward. You lean back instead. Everything in your body is screaming run, but there's nowhere to run to. And even if there were, would your legs listen? Would they obey you, or the hour you no longer control? You look at the others. Still silent. Still statues. Still not surprised. The old man whispers, almost tenderly. It'll ask. What? You breathe. The jail. He turns to you. His lips barely move. It always asks. You shake your head. I don't understand. That's how it keeps you. You blink. The door's light flickers again. Once. Twice. Like a heartbeat. And then, in the silence that follows, you hear it. A question. Not with words. Not with sound. But clear as anything. Do you want to leave? You don't answer. Not yet. Because suddenly you're not sure. You think back to the first moment. The slam of the iron door, the stench, the bucket, the beans. You remember the bugs, the pacing madmen, the rats, the whispering walls. But you also remember something else. You've changed. You've adapted. The filth clings to your skin like it belongs now. The smells no longer sting. The noises don't make you jump. The bench, somehow, has begun to fit the shape of your spine. You're not surviving anymore. You're enduring. And that might be worse. You whisper. What happens if I leave? The shackled man tilts his head. You forget. Forget what? That it ever happened. Your chest tightens. Because something in you doesn't want that. If you leave, really leave, then the pain, the silence, the hour itself vanishes like a dream you wake up from too quickly. And who's to say it wasn't a dream? Who's to say you learned anything? You take one step toward the bars. The metal warms under your hands. You look back one more time. The barefoot man is still. But his lips are moving now. He's mouthing the same words over and over. Don't trust the door. You freeze. You whisper. Why not? He doesn't answer. But the light behind the open door pulses again. Stronger now. A second heartbeat, one you almost recognize. And again you hear the question. Do you want to leave? You close your eyes. And you say it. Soft. Certain. No. The light blinks out. Just like that. The door disappears. A blank wall returns in its place. The jail breathes in, then sighs. The bench creaks like it's relieved. The old man chuckles. That's the only right answer. You sit back down. Not because you're trapped, but because now you chose to stay. And the jail knows it. And now, it lets go. The breath in the walls loosens. The pressure lifts. The silence becomes just silence. And the hour? It ends. Not with a scream. Not with a key. Just the stillness of a place that finally got what it wanted. You. But for now, you're free. Because you know it. And it knows you. And in that delicate stalemate, you finally sleep. You wake slowly. No alarm. No footsteps. Just a gentle quiet, like something heavy has lifted off your chest. The cell looks different now. Still filthy. Still cracked. But lighter. Like it's exhaled the night. You stretch. Carefully. Your bones crack, your joints complain, but it's not pain, it's proof. You're still here. You didn't vanish. You didn't run. You endured. And somewhere, deep in the ribs of this jail, that seems to matter. You glance at the others. The barefoot man is asleep. Peacefully for once. The old man has slumped forward, still breathing. Still anchored. Even the shackled man is seated now. Head bowed. Chains quiet. Outside, morning light seeps through the cracks in the wall. Faint. Pale. But unmistakably real. No more humming. No more knocks. No more whispered questions from the dark. You sit quietly. Breathe slowly. The air still smells like rust and regret, but there's something else now. Freshness? No. Not that. But the possibility of it. You close your eyes again. And when you do, you remember your own name. Your own life. Your own world. Just waiting on the other side of this hour. The jail doesn't fight you anymore. It simply is. And that's enough. Because you survived it. 1 hour. Maybe more. Maybe less. Time doesn't move normally in here. But you did. You moved. You chose. You stayed. And now you rest. You don't need to escape. Because you've already done the hard part. You remembered who you were. And that, more than any unlocked door, is what sets you free. So now, let the silence stay soft. Let the breath grow steady. Let the last drip fall unnoticed. And drift. Just like that. Into sleep. Hey guys. Thank you so much for being here. Your support means a lot and I look forward to bringing you new topics soon. Stay kind, stay inspired, and I'll see you